so much. And it's like performance, getting somebody to perform at a higher level is a lot more difficult than getting somebody out of pain. And, you know, they're a supplement to what you're doing.
Right.
And I think if you're not really, you know, tracking things like, you know, what am I doing with my nutrition? How much sleep am I getting? You know, what does my training look like? And I think people get so lost in those little things. It's like, you know, adding these heart rate variability monitors, or how many steps did I get in today? And they're not focusing on the things that actually matter. The things like, you know, what am I doing today from a training standpoint to improve performance? And it's like, if you are not training hard enough, you don't need to worry about recovery.
What's up, everyone? That was Dr. Daniel Saenz, the owner of Epic Chiropractic up in Sacramento. Really fun conversation I had with him today. And I'm your host, Joe Lemon, the host of the Real Value Exchange. And you know what? I'm recording this intro at the airport while I'm getting ready to board here. Flight got pushed back, so I was like, let me just jump on the mics. Let me get this episode out, because, you know, a lot of times, especially in sales and marketing, we're always focused on trying to get new business and try to get new clients in. And I'm like, man, there's so much more that we can offer of value and things that we can offer of service to people that spend money with us. And so he's one of my clients. He's been using some of our soft tissue equipment, and he does not operate like your current or your standard chiropractic office. These guys are more so like rehab experts, soft tissue specialists. And, you know, you got to ask yourself a couple questions. Like, where do you go if you're like in pain, like with something that's minor? Not say minor, because it can be pretty painful, like tendonitis or carpal tunnel, you know, right before it's like life-threatening. Where do you go? Love the fact that I got this background intercom action happening here at the airport too. Just let you know that I'm keeping it real. I'm actually recording this whole intro from the airport, and yeah, so that happens with it. But I'd rather leave it in, add some context to the conversation. But you know, we cover a lot of things throughout this whole conversation with Dr. Dan, and everything from how the medical model is truly based around this whole Sickcare idea. And, you know, if your just quality of life is impacted, there aren't a lot of solutions, and all the solutions that I would recommend are probably going to be cash-based. And so that's a whole separate issue that I think is really impacting the whole healthcare system, is that people have relied on insurance, and now that, you know, they're like, okay, you know, I'm hurt, I don't feel well, I got back pain, tendonitis, whatever you're dealing with at the time. And, you know, your insurance probably won't cover the appropriate therapies. They let it get to the point to where you need operation. And so, you know, I really want to use this platform to really highlight some of the latest technologies, some of the best things I'm seeing throughout the whole healthcare space. And it's great that I get a chance to really offer a lot of these great tools to like different physicians and therapists out there. But you know, I really wish that more of these guys got the proper spotlight. And there's a lot of great techniques and, you know, different ways to kind of treat injuries that don't require something that's super invasive. And yeah, it's just unfortunate. So I want to use this platform to get to really shine some light on those individuals carrying out those therapies, as well as the products and, you know, other services around that. So, you know, we cover everything in this conversation, from, you know, not just talking about, you know, what to eat and kind of how you should manage your actual rehab process, but really talk about just the basics of what people need to be doing. And obviously, I love the straightforwardness that Dr. Dan talks about, that most people don't go hard enough. Isn't this just true, to really be so wrapped up in this sports recovery world, which is becoming a booming industry? But a lot of it's marketing. I get that. I really understand that. And, you know, a lot of times people just aren't that knowledgeable about it. So there's a place for it, and there's not a place for a lot of it. I'll be honest about that. And so with that, I want you guys to sit back and enjoy this conversation. Please subscribe to the Real Value Exchange podcast. Tell a friend so they can tell a friend. And if you want to reach me, feel free to contact me at Joe Alex Lemon on all the major platforms, or you can go to joealexlemon.org and you can easily get in touch with me there. Until next time. I want to get you on, though. I mean, not only talk podcast stuff, but talk about just some of the things that's happening in like healthcare. You guys work with a lot of, I'd like to call them elite everyday athletes, and I think that's the population that I try to think that I'm in, even though I'm not really like that athletic anymore. But still, I still like to try to compete and try to do my thing when possible, man. And I would just love to hear from you a little bit about what you guys are doing here, for one. But then two, I mean, talk about some of the trends or maybe things that you could see that might be coming up in that whole group as well.
Right. Yeah. So I think, here we focus on primarily sports. We treat everything from, soccer, baseball, football, through more fitness related sports. I focus primarily on more strength and fitness type of stuff. So CrossFitters, power lifters, strongmen, bodybuilding. And so that's kind of where I've placed a lot of my emphasis.
How'd you get into that though?
I think a lot of it just started just because, I grew up just being really into weightlifting.
Yeah.
I like working out.
Man. I mean, everybody can't see you, but Dr. Dan's extremely fit. He's making me want to work out right now, actually.
Well, I appreciate that. And so I think a lot of it just started, with the love for, strength training. I really enjoy everything about that aspect. I've gone through periods where, I was doing a lot of CrossFit stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot of my friends are kind of involved in that space. And so that's where a lot of it started. It just kind of happened organically where, somebody would come in, we'd see some sort of results, and then, they'd tell their friends, and it just kind of grew that way. Mm-hmm. And so that's where, I placed a lot of my focus, just because I feel like, when you really specialize on, one specific thing, it's the way to become an expert at it. It's like, if you want to be the best at something, it's like you have to be, have some sort of hyper focus on it. Mm-hmm. And there's an old saying, it's like, jack of all trades, master of none. It's like, if you want to treat everything, it's like, that's great, but it's like, you're not going to be good at anything. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the way we focus here is, we've really kind of honed in on exactly what we want to do, the type of patients we want to see, the types of treatments and types of injuries that we want to address. And so that's kind of how things are done here. I would like to think that we're kind of outside of what you would consider like a traditional chiropractor. Yeah. Most chiropractors focus purely on, chiropractic manipulation. We offer a lot more than that here. We do a lot of soft tissue work. We've been doing shockwave, for a while now since you kind of introduced that to us.
Yeah, man.
So I appreciate that happening. So
wow, that's good.
We do laser, but the big thing that I really focus on too is just rehab. It's like, taking somebody through progressions to really strengthen and, get somebody from, being injured to performing well. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people don't really navigate those waters well. I think getting somebody out of pain is not difficult. It's like pain is, it's a check engine light. It happens late in an injury.
That's a good point, man.
And when you treat somebody, it happens in the reverse. So it's like the first thing that gets better are the symptoms. And so it's like, if you stop treatment just because somebody feels good, you're missing out on so much. And it's like getting somebody to perform at a higher level is a lot more difficult than getting somebody out of pain.
Dude, I'm really glad that you went there because a lot of people focusing on the pain and say the pain's gone, now let's get back after it, as if they're ready to really do that yet, right? And they wonder why they get hurt within the next 2, 3, 6 months, whenever it happens again.
And you see that cycle. It's like, the number one predictor of injury is previous injury. Okay. And so when somebody has low back pain, it's like they come in, they get worked on, they feel better, and then they go right back to what they were doing. And it's like, they're surprised. It's like, oh, I thought we fixed it. It's like, yeah, we stopped treating when your pain got better. So it's like, what about all the other stuff? What about the dysfunction that led to the pain?
Isn't that where healthcare is going, though, too? Because I want to say, or this is maybe me being a super optimistic about it, but I feel like, the whole healthcare system really is set up for like around, just treating symptoms, obviously.
Yeah, it's like Sickcare, not healthcare.
Sickcare, exactly right. So, and it's like, as we start to kind of evolve as like an actual nation, and we start saying, what if I get out ahead of this and actually do something that's going to try to prevent me from even getting sick.
Right.
And then so we have to view healthcare as this place where we're like doing what's right for us way in advance. Right. And so do you think people are catching on to that concept, or you think that's still a kind of a far off notion, man?
I think that's the direction that people see healthcare going. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're anywhere near that point.
Not there yet, right?
And it's just because, you look at insurance, it's like, we take insurance here, but insurance dictates your care.
Yeah.
They tell you what services are covered. They tell you how to treat your patients. And if you want to do something that's beyond that, you're either going to do it for free because they're not going to pay you,
right,
or you have to kind of figure out a way to make your business model work so you can actually help people and not just do what insurance tells you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big problem. It's like, okay, well, insurance isn't going to pay for that, so we're not going to do that today. Even though your injury requires that to fully recover,
yep,
insurance won't pay for it. So we're going to do what they cover and hope for the best.
Which is wild, man. I mean, and you know what? So kind of going back on a couple points. One, I love the idea that you guys are mastering something, because I think that we're geniuses, or I should say it like this. You can only be like an actual genius at a couple things. Like some of us try to kind of spread ourselves so thin. I do it. And you realize that you don't really know jack when it comes to, trying to master all these different things. Exactly. So why not triple down on what you're really great at, and then let that, and then be a specialist there and hand off everything else to somebody else.
Right. And, I think the medical model in general, it's like, you have your primary care that is good at, they know a little bit about a lot of conditions.
Yep.
And then you have your specialists that know a lot about like a few things. And so I think that's kind of where things need to go, because it's like, if you have some condition, it's like you want the guy that knows everything about that condition. You don't want the guy that, had learned about that a while back and just kind of glazed through it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the direction I think things have really been going, is like, okay, let's have experts in all these different things. And, performance is one of those things. It's like, okay, this guy over here can get you out of pain, but it's like, if you want to, push the needle even further, you want to perform at a higher level, it's like, you got to have a specialist that does that.
Yep.
And, in the medical model, they don't really have much of that.
I mean, dude, there's actually nothing that helps people kind of get to like the actual elite level when it comes to being like a weekend warrior and everything else in the actual medical model. So do you mind talking a little bit about like what that looks like for you guys?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you think about performance, there's a lot of different things you can look at performance. And I think the general population doesn't really know what that looks like.
Yeah.
And so now there's so many different things out there that can kind of help track performance or track metrics, things like that. So if you look at like Fitbits, in CrossFit, they have these little Whoop bands.
Whoop bands, yeah.
And so, there's like these Oura rings.
Oura rings, yeah.
There's so many different devices that help you track different things, whether it's sleep, heart rate variability, a lot of these different kind of aspects that I think there's value in those things. And I think in the right situation, they can provide information that can help you perform at a higher level. But I think people don't use them in the right way. Yeah. It's like, if you rely on this ring to tell you how you slept last night, you're missing the point.
That's a good point, man.
How do you feel? I mean, if you feel well rested, then it's like you're probably well rested. Yeah. If you rely purely on numbers to tell you how you feel, then I think you're not really using the technology to a point that's actually going to help you perform at a higher level. And there's so many other things too. You look at like micronutrient testing to determine, are you deficient in any sort of vitamins or nutrients?
Which very few people really talk about. People really get lost in the macros. Right. Like I have a lot of buddies, and I've even done it, that really get trying to do like the keto diets and all the rest of that. Right. And we just think, oh, we'll just have bacon this morning, and be like bacon and cheese eggs, and then I'm out. Right.
Right. And that's a huge problem, I think, with keto in general, is people think, oh, I can eat as much as I want, as long as it doesn't have carbs in it. But it's like, that's not really how it works. It's like, the thing that matters is, are you in a calorie deficit or a surplus? It's like, you can still overeat on keto and gain weight.
I've done it.
That's definitely possible. But people don't really think about that. It's like, just because I can eat all the meat and cheese or whatever it is you're doing. Yep. I think they're kind of they don't fully understand the concepts behind some of these things. But to get back to the performing at a high level, micronutrient testing is one of those things that people look at, where it's like, am I deficient in something? How can I add supplements into my kind of daily routine to improve some aspect of my performance? And I think the thing that really matters is not necessarily things like that. Like supplements, they provide a little bit of to help with whatever you're doing. They're a supplement to what you're doing. Right. And I think if you're not really tracking things like, what am I doing with my nutrition? How much sleep am I getting? What does my training look like? And I think people get so lost in those little things. It's like, adding these heart rate variability monitors, or how many steps did I get in today? And they're not focusing on the things that actually matter. The things like, what am I doing today from a training standpoint to improve performance? And it's like, if you are not training hard enough, you don't need to worry about recovery.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's like most of these people that have Fitbits, they're still worried, oh, did I get 10,000 steps today?
Yeah.
It's like, who cares? It's like, train harder and then worry about recovery. It's like, if you are not training hard enough, then recovery plays such a small role in it. That I think, most people don't really train hard enough or are strong enough to really injure themselves, or to even worry about recovery. And recovery is such like a huge thing now. It's like,
huge.
Mushroom coffees and teas and
float tanks.
Yeah, it's like you don't need cryotherapy to recover from your 45-minute workout at 24-hour fitness.
It's so true though, man. Because people get wrapped up into the trends, right. I believe, right? And they're headline reading, and you kind of see these things, and you're like, wow, I need to do this because LeBron James spent $1 million, so let me go spend $100
right.
on my little bit of rehab type of work. But there's some basic things that people do overlook, and layering in the data to really know when to kind of use certain tools, whether that's cryo or whatever type of techniques that you're up to, I think is something that people don't really fully understand how to do either. Because you have the Fitbit, so you know that, I did 1,000 steps. I track my food, but you're not putting it all together, right? To where it's going to be something that you can make applicable.
Right.
So, interesting.
And there's so many different things that people look at. Hormones obviously play a huge role in how well you perform.
Yeah.
I mean,
are you guys doing something like hormone testing here at all?
No, we don't do any of that here.
Okay.
And mostly just because, I'm not... I wouldn't consider myself an expert in those things. Yeah. And I think a lot of people that say they're experts are not really experts.
Yeah, people are just throwing it out there,
And, there's all these tests where, they have saliva testing and, all these like labs that you mail in, and, they look at different, things in your blood, or, different markers to kind of determine where you kind of are at from a hormonal level. And the problem is the research is not really great on that stuff. There's all these I can't remember what it is. There's a popular test where they look at IG levels of things associated with different foods, so like sensitivities to foods. And so, for example, a lot of people talk about, having gluten sensitivities or dairy. And, there's these lab tests that basically look at, how sensitive to different foods are you? And if you look at the research, it's like the correlation between these sensitivities to actually creating some sort of problem is not great. And so a lot of people are really hyper focused on different things like that. And it's like, a lot of that stuff really does not matter. It's like, stop creating a bigger problem for yourself.
That's interesting. I mean, because you're seeing a lot of these guys come through on a daily basis, and they want to be these athletes, right? So where would you tell them to kind of really focus? If you're like, hey, you know what? If you want to strive for more, and let's say that they're not really pushing themselves yet, but they want to take it up a level, how would you kind of guide them a little bit?
Honestly, train harder.
Yeah.
You probably aren't training hard enough.
Yeah, back to the basics, right?
And nutrition is huge. Make sure that you have that aspect covered. It's like, if you can kind of manage your macronutrient kind of standards, things that you're doing to make sure that you're getting enough calories to get stronger, if that's your goal, and trying to manage from an energy standpoint, then I think that's a start. Train harder, eat better, and sleep. It's like, make sure that you're getting plenty of sleep. It's like, if you are training really hard and you're not getting enough sleep, it's like you're not going to recover well. But it's like, you don't need an Oura ring to tell you that you didn't sleep enough last night. And so I think that's the biggest thing. I think people just need to train harder and try to be a little bit better about the basics.
Yeah. Tell me about your actual workout routine, man, because you're in dope shape. Like,
well, I appreciate that.
What are you up to these days, man?
I kind of bounce around.
Yeah.
I like a lot of different type of training. I really enjoy strength training. More like traditional, just
on the bar. For the most part.
A lot of powerlifting type of stuff. I do.
Would you ever compete?
No.
You sure?
No, it's just not really something that interests me.
I'm with you.
I think there's a lot of things about competition that I think if you're going to go down that route, I think you want to, at least I do, I want to put forth the most effort and, kind of cover all my bases. And it's like, I just don't have time for that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, running a busy clinic, it's difficult to find time to train in general,
It
let
is.
alone to, prepare for a competition or bodybuilding show, things like that.
You work with a lot of these athletes. You're obviously keeping yourself in shape. What's some future things that you see coming up in like healthcare when it comes to like training, I should say, and like that elite performance? Are there any training styles or any type of fad diets that you hear people talking about? Because, keto's been going on for a little bit now, so I could imagine there's something else around the corner.
I try to avoid a lot of the stuff that's popular just because the body hasn't changed.
Sure.
A lot of these concepts with training have not really changed for a very long time.
Yep.
Now people I think they're better at marketing than ever. And I think people have put together programs purely from a marketing standpoint. So I don't really think that, there's going to be any major changes as far as, training programs go. It's like, there's different styles of periodization, different ways to kind of program, strength training and conditioning to kind of elicit a response. But I don't really see anything new coming out that really is any different than anything that's been around for decades.
Yeah.
And so with that sort of thing, it's like I'm very traditional as far as strength and conditioning goes. There's certain things that I think are changing in the rehab world too. You see all this like blood flow restriction stuff.
Yeah.
And in the research coming out, there's some good research kind of showing, being able to create change with lighter loads or resistance. And so I think in a rehab kind of situation, it's like if you can still kind of create that change without having to load up a movement, I think there's a lot of benefit to it. And so I think from like a current technology or standpoint like that, I think that's one of the things that looks promising.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I've been kind of against since I first heard about it, just because
Really?
it's another one of those things. It's like somebody comes out with some product that wants to sell you, and then I don't like jumping on ship with things like that.
Yeah. I mean, so have you actually tried it before, the blood flow restriction?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
And, I've done it a couple times, and it's a pain every time I've done it. I mean, it's something that you can feel yourself burn out quick just from doing some basic movements like push-ups or whatever else you're kind of, just trying to constrict there. But it's like that stuff started decades ago, if not, I want to say, 50, 60 years ago, when people were just tying bands around their arm.
And it's been in bodybuilding for a long time.
Forever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so now they got these cuffs that a couple grand or maybe $5,000, I'm not sure how much they're going for, but people were using literally like bands. Yeah. Old school stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like belts, right? They're kind of tying belts around the biceps while they do curls and stuff.
Right.
And so yeah, it is interesting, like how you're speaking about how people are marketing different things and they're coming out with some cool products to kind of throw like, a brand new fad on it.
And I think one of the big things too, especially in that space, is now, with Instagram and social media, everybody wants to do things remotely.
Yeah,
and it's, I get it. It's like, if you can start small and then scale up.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're just searching for customers or clients locally,
Yeah.
you're limited by your geographic region. When you do something online, you can scale up throughout the country or world.
True.
And so the opportunity to make money off of these things grows. And so I think that's why you're seeing like this huge, change where people are selling online programs or products and all that stuff. Is just because if you have a big following, it's easy to sell them stuff.
You can scale it. Yeah,
it's easy to scale. And so I think those kind of things, you're seeing a big trend with that stuff now, where it's like everybody is selling some sort of program. And it's just like the quality of a lot of the stuff is just not there. Be very methodical and break things down as much as I can, and then track them. It's like if you're not tracking progress. It's like, what are you really doing?
Yeah.
It's like, how much are you really seeing improvements? Are you creating a change, or, are you just looking for, symptom relief?
Great point, man, because a lot of that's just purely subjective, right?
Yeah.
Once it comes to it. Well. So last couple questions, man, and then we're gonna wrap up really fast because I know you got some patients coming in. But one, do you ever see anybody, or do you ever see it going to a place where you can, rehab people remotely? Is that a thing that you can see?
That's a huge thing right now.
Is it? Okay.
And so, in the physical therapy and chiropractic world, like we talked about the programs,
yep.
The big thing now is doing rehab programming.
Okay.
And, I do a bit of that, but it's more individualized.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that have put together some good programs where, you basically have, a set of movements or, ways of addressing common problems. It's like, a lot of people who have low back pain, they'll present with certain hip kind of dysfunctions or stability problems. And so they'll basically take a lot of those common things, put them in a program, and it's like a one size fits all thing. It's like, okay, if you have back pain, try this program. And, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think you'll probably fix a lot of problems. You'll help a lot of people, but there's going to be a lot of situations that you don't help.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I focus. I'm not trying to sell programs necessarily. It's like, I like working one-on-one with clients or athletes. And so with that sort of thing, there's a lot of people out there that are doing one-on-one rehab type of stuff remotely, telemedicine type of stuff.
Right.
I feel like telemedicine in general has kind of taken off too. There's a lot of these companies out there now that are catering more towards athletes. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you're looking for a medical doctor, there's ones that specialize in, athletes. And so you can do all that stuff remotely. So it's like, you no longer have to go to your primary care, who's going to tell you, oh, stop working out because you have this injury. It's like, working with a physician that understands what you do.
And so just like that, guys, it's a wrap. I want to thank you guys for listening to the Real Value Exchange. Really trying to push the limits here and drive some more,
rather than telling you,
these conversations,
stop
I should say, with healthcare providers
and not a good solution.
Latest technologies.
Right. And if you think about just how people kind of move,
people want
something I'm
pretty passionate about, something I've been working in,
right? The whole convenience
and living out for the past 4 years.
Maybe driving across town might be like a headache
to the field. So
they can log in online.
So if you want more questions,
you want to
reach out
link directly
in any way, go to joe.alexlemon.org and
well,
tell about the
Dr.
podcast.
Dan, man, I really
Until next
appreciate
time,
you could jumping on the mics.
phenomenal.
Please tell everybody how to find you, how to find the clinic.
Yeah. So my clinic is Epic Chiropractic and Sports Therapy. So that's epic-chiropractic.com. You can find me on Instagram. It's Movement Matters. So MVMT_matters. And then I also have a more fitness related type of athlete website. That's movementmatters.com. So you can find a lot of information about the type of people I'm working with on there. But other than that, it's like, if you want to chat, reach out to me. If you want to kind of, do some more stuff, it's like, let me know.
Love it, man. Love it, brother. Well, you know what? Thank you for jumping on the mics again, man. And we're out.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, man.
And so just like that, guys, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Real Value Exchange podcast. Always appreciate all the downloads and the shares and just the feedback. So if you want to keep the conversation going, I'll have Dr. Daniel's contact information all in the show notes. If you want to hit me up, you can always go to Joe Alex Lemon on wherever you guys take part in social media. I do all the stuff, man. I'm on TikTok and Instagram and you name it. LinkedIn is where I spend the majority of my time, though. And you can always go to my website, too, joealexlemon.org, so you can see the actual show notes there, too. All right, I'm out, and stay tuned for more episodes.
96% of B2B buyers want content with more input from industry thought leaders. Launch a podcast and invite influencers on your show to position your brand as an industry leader. Learn more at salesculture.work.